Kingsman, The Golden Circle is the sequel to Kingsman: The Secret Service, came out 2 years ago. This one is once again directed by Matthew Vaughn and written by him and Jane Goldman. And this movie picks up a little bit after the first movie. Taron Egerton is back as the character of Eggsy, full-on Kingsman. He's got a girlfriend. Life is pretty good for him until a new drug dealer named Poppy, played by Julianne Moore, who wants to be the queen of drug dealing, blows up every single Kingsman base. So now the Kingsman agents that are left alive have to travel to America to team up with the American counterpart of Kingsman, which is Statesman, and they have to find a way to stop Julianne Moore before she kills everyone with her virus-infected drugs. I was really excited for this movie because I enjoyed the first Kingsman movie quite a lot more than I originally expected to. I thought that was one of the best films of 2015, so to hear that Matthew Vaughn was going to be directing it, and he didn't even direct the sequel to Kick-Ass, like, that was really exciting for me. He's actually going to direct a sequel to a movie that he made, and it's not like Kick-Ass 2 or X-Men Days of Future Past where they switch him out. So of course I was really excited to see it. Everything got me super pumped. The My Way teaser trailer was the best thing ever, and walking out of the movie, I gotta say, this is one of the most disappointing films of the year, and I did not expect to say that because everything I was seeing and hearing beforehand seemed like that this was the perfect sequel to Kingsman, and the fact that it's directed by Matthew Vaughn, it seems like he would have this on lock. Apparently, no. There are some obvious good things about it, though. The performances. There's not really a weak link in the cast, I would say. I think everyone did a really good job. And also, certain action moments I thought were really fun, really clever, like the first Kingsman movie, except the first Kingsman movie had clever action sequences, and this movie really only has moments. And this movie also has a pretty good sense of humor at times. Like, the jokes in this movie at times could be really funny. My big issue with this movie, though, is that it doesn't really feel like the next level, you know what I mean? Like, Empire Strikes Back was the next level to Star Wars. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was the next level to Rise of the Planet of the Apes. The Dark Knight was the next level for Batman Begins. Now, it's kind of hard to expect a ton more out of a Kingsman sequel because the first movie was really over the top. It was more of a James Bond satire based off the Mark Millar comic, so it's not like I was expecting something as dark as Empire or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes or Dark Knight to happen with the sequel, but I was just expecting something new here. I was just really more expecting to see where else these characters are going to go, how they're going to grow, how this villain is going to be bigger and more threatening than Samuel L. Jackson. You know, that kind of stuff plot-wise, but this movie just didn't really deliver on that. It just kind of felt like the first Kingsman movie again. There's literally scenes in this movie where they literally tried to remake the first Kingsman movie. There's another bar scene in this movie, except instead of Colin Firth beating people up, it's Pedro Pascal with a whip. But at the same time, it's the same concept. Pedro Pascal says, "Manners maketh man," like Colin Firth did, and then he starts beating people up in a bar. It's the same scene as the first movie for no reason. The whole scene as a whole, if you took it out, no one would really notice it. It was really only there to deliver one line of exposition that they could have delivered somewhere else. It was just like, oh, well, a bar scene was popular in Kingsman, let's do it again. Speaking of action scenes that were popular in Kingsman, Matthew Vaughn said in some interviews that there are certain sequences, like a lot, that were going to attempt to top the church scene in the first movie. And that sequence is incredible, the church scene. So hearing him try to say, the maker of the church scene, saying, we're gonna top that more so in this, obviously I was excited to see what these sequences were, and walking out of the movie, I don't know which scenes he was referring to. There's like one action scene near the end, the final fight, that seems like it came sorta close. That final battle is actually the best action scene in the movie, though, I'll give them that. But to say that this movie is going to be bigger than the first Kingsman movie, it's going to try to be better, it just didn't do that. It just felt like they were going back to basics, and in some ways going even below the basic, because there was no action scene in this movie besides the final one that really felt that special or unique compared to the other action scenes in the first movie. Every action scene in the first Kingsman, spectacular, loved them. This movie, only the last fight I really enjoyed, and the rest all have flaws. For example, the beginning action scene of the movie is this car chase, and there's a character that comes back from the first Kingsman. We're like, oh, he's still relevant, okay. And Taron Egerton and him actually have to fight in this car. There's this car chase, but they're fighting inside. It's a good idea for an opening action scene. Problem being, though, is that it is CGI'd way too much. That's the thing. The first Kingsman movie was moderately successful. They got a little bit more of a budget in this, so there's a ton more visual effects works that do not look that good. And this is a problem I had with the first Kingsman movie, was that there are certain moments visually, visual effects wise, did not look too good. So hearing that they got a bigger budget, that should fix the problem, right? Did not happen. Especially with that opening car chase where it seems like they CGI'd the people and their reactions, and it's too crazy of an opening action scene. There's just so much going on that literally the next action scene after that feels like it isn't the natural progression. That's how an action movie should be structured. You open up a movie, if you want to open up a movie with an action scene, make sure it's not too big that it overshadows the action scenes that will follow until the big action scene near the end. Golden Circle does that. It starts off crazy and then the action scenes to follow are weird because it doesn't feel as crazy or bigger than the last one. It doesn't have that natural progression. And it also doesn't help that the first opening action scene just isn't that good with the CGI and certain camera work too. Matthew Vaughn's direction is something I usually respect, and this movie, it just felt like he didn't have it on lock this time around. I don't know, it's so weird, because you hear things in interviews where Matthew Vaughn was like, he has like a 4-hour cut of this movie. They had so much stuff going on, and it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of passion in this movie, but apparently he was passionate about it. It's so weirdly soulless, but it has a soul too. And speaking of that 4-hour cut, they cut this movie down to like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Still too long. The first movie was like about 2 hours, like kind of perfect runtime. Nothing really dragged in that movie. This movie, however, certain things really drag. This movie does not need to be 2 hours and 20 minutes, and there's definitely things they could have cut out of this movie to make it shorter and have a better flow. And instead of this story feeling like it's the natural progression of a sequel where this story needed to happen after the first one, it just felt like there was a bunch of unnecessary subplots, you know, like Eggsy's girlfriend is the princess at the end of the first movie, which I thought that was just supposed to be a funny joke because that's what James Bond would do, right? But no, they're actually in love, and that's actually a big part of the movie. I always thought that Roxy from the first Kingsman movie was going to be that thing, that maybe they weren't going to hit it off right away, but then as the movies progress, that they'd fall in love and get in a relationship, but no, he's just with this princess who I can honestly care less about. And speaking of Eggsy, I enjoyed this character a lot in the last movie, seeing him grow, seeing him change, and in this movie, sure, Taron Egerton's performance is entertaining. Eggsy is an entertaining character. Does not feel like he changed at all by the end of this film. And I'm not going to spoil anything about this movie, but basically something does happen to him, but it doesn't really feel like he's changing himself, you know what I mean? Like he's learning something new. It just felt like this happened just because we set it up earlier. It just felt like a lot of wasted potential with that, especially with Mark Strong as Merlin, who I thought was going to get more field time. He was going to fight more people. Actually doesn't. He has like one fight scene and then that's it, really? And I was really worried about this going in. Colin Firth coming back. Now, Colin Firth's character, Harry Hart, in the first movie, very good. Colin Firth was excellent. And he is still good in this movie. It's just that the way they kind of go about trying to explain how he survived that gunshot to the face is just, oh, Sam Jackson shot him in the eye, and the Statesmen have this technology that can, like, wrap around your face and bring you back to life. Something weird like that. They use it twice with Colin Firth and someone else. And it's like, why is this technology a thing? It's just kind of weird that even though they're kind of the same organization, Kingsman and Statesman, they don't necessarily have the same tech. Now, there is a differentiating of certain tech, like umbrella guns and the electro whip that Pedro Pascal uses. That was cool. That kind of differentiating of tech, that is cool and clever for both companies. But the thing with the healing Colin Firth and putting it around his face, the fact that the Kingsmen don't have that, and there's really no way to differentiate that between America and London, it's just a thing you wrap around your face. It's just kind of weird that at times they'll have the same tech with a different look, but when it comes to this thing that's important for Colin Firth coming back, Kingsman doesn't have something like that. And also, speaking of the Statesmen, I was kind of let down with them too. You see these names, Halle Berry, Channing Tatum, and Jeff Bridges on the poster and in the trailers. I never once saw the name Pedro Pascal mentioned in any marketing, trailers, or posters, yet Pedro Pascal has more screen time than everyone in Statesman. And every other character that they tried to promote, I was honestly just kind of disappointed with. Channing Tatum, he was fun while he was there, and then he was knocked out of the movie for reasons I won't spoil. Then you have Halle Berry, who's just female American Mark Strong, and that's all she really does. And then you have Jeff Bridges, who's just playing Michael Caine, who's not really as important as Michael Caine in the first movie, you know? It's just, Statesman kind of let me down, and even Pedro Pascal in some areas let me down. There are certain things regarding this character where I thought, okay, I wish there was more explanation for that though, instead of just you saying it and that's what you're all about, kinda. In fact, while watching the movie, I was just kinda thinking, you know, it'd be more fun if we were just watching another Kingsman mission instead of a Statesman mission, and then I thought, oh wait, they made it so that that can never be possible for at least the next movie, because Julianne Moore blew up every single base, because she has missiles. And blew up everything. They pull a G.I. Joe retaliation with certain characters, and I was just thinking, why do that? That could have been so much better to see in a sequel, to see these characters, but instead, kaboom! There, no more of that. We move on to Statesman. And while I've been thinking about this movie for the past few days, because I saw it on Monday night, while I've been thinking about it, I've just found more reasons to be disappointed with this movie, especially with a certain death that happens near the end of the movie that should have felt powerful. And though it is a kind of funny, clever scene to have, it doesn't feel as strong as it should, because the rest of the movie kind of feels really just over the top and more funny. Like, even when every single Kingsman base blows up and Taron Egerton is supposed to be sad about this, the next scene is him and Mark Strong just drinking it off with whiskey and acting really drunk. And the kind of the emotional impact that you were supposed to have just isn't there anymore, and instead it's just made funny. Like, every single base blew up, everyone's dead, let's get drunk and laugh about it. I've heard at one point that Matthew Vaughn said that this is like the toughest time he's had making a movie, just making the sequel, and it kind of shows, because it feels like there's too many ideas going on here. It feels like that they really should have pinpointed one main story to focus on, and a bunch of the other subplot stuff that they had could have waited until much later. I think maybe 1 or 2, 3 more rewrites of the script where you kind of focus in on what you want to do first before making the movie. And Julianne Moore as a villain doesn't even really compare to Samuel L. Jackson in the first movie. Samuel L. Jackson was funny. His plan was actually kind of smart in a James Bond satire spy movie kind of way. In this movie, her performance should be really funny. It should be something you should remember. But she's so just secluded from a lot of the main events. She's just on her base, and then by the end of the movie, that's when the big battle happens at the base, and that's where it feels like she's more of a presence for a while. It just felt like her villainous presence just wasn't that big or important in the movie. And it also felt like that the cameo of Elton John, who everyone knows is in the movie, like, it's not a thing I'm spoiling, everyone knows he's in the movie, where he's cameoing, he had actually some better lines, some funnier lines than she did, I thought. And at first, I didn't know the purpose of Elton John, like, why is he here? Why is he in it so long? Then near the end of his role, I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. He's doing a funny job. Not only that, but the villain I mentioned at the beginning of the movie with the car chase scene, that was someone from the last movie who I thought, oh man, that actually could be something really clever, seeing how this person changed into this villain. And they don't really focus on it too much. He doesn't really feel that necessary by the end of the movie. Just someone to be there. But besides Julianne Moore and the person in the beginning of the movie, but there's also another villain in the form of a political figure in America, to where I was like, the way you're handling this Julianne Moore situation, how you're having him in this movie, not needed. This is not needed. Like, oh my god, that was so stupid. And it wasn't stupid in a satirical, fun kind of way. It was just dumb. This is a dumb movie, but it's not a fun, dumb movie like the first movie where they pulled it off with flying colors. This movie just felt dumb and unnecessary. I wanted to have fun with this movie. I wanted to have a great old time like I did with the first one, and this movie does have fun moments. Performances are still good. It's just that this movie overall, as a whole, felt like just back to basics. We're not going to try to advance with a sequel story, we're going to try to remake certain elements of the first movie, try to recapture the same magic, and it just didn't come through in the end. I'm going to give Kingsman: The Golden Circle a C-. I'm really disappointed in this movie. I've been more disappointed with it in the past few days thinking about it, and I hope that since they are making a third one, if Matthew Vaughn will come back, I hope that he just focuses on what that story should be. We don't need a bunch of other subplot stuff, just focus on a main story, make it clever, make it fun, have the action scenes be really spectacular, And that's all you need. But if you've seen Kingsman: The Golden Circle, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.